Hey everybody, welcome to another video here on the 67 Stang channel. So today we're going to be talking about something, a topic I think that is going to be of interest. It popped up on another forum I'm on online, just talking about the classic cars and some things you might want to think about if you're going to be driving a classic car around. So let's go get into it, shall we? Okay, as I was saying during the intro there, a question popped up on one of the forums I frequent online and asked, what kind of things should I carry with me if I'm driving a classic car? And that got me to thinking. I remember back when I was daily driving the Mustang here in the 80s and 90s, I learned quickly to carry certain things in the trunk that could really help me in case I broke down on the side of the road, got in trouble, had to help someone else or whatnot. And so I thought I would talk about that and kind of give you a list of things I like to carry with me, especially now that we've got the car in a very drivable state. I do take it out on grocery runs and whatnot. So what kind of things should I be carrying with me as we, motor down the road? So, what I'm talking about or what I'm thinking or let me collect my thoughts for a second, right? There's a few things, obviously. There's going to be some things that just make common sense that probably came with the car. Then there's going to be some other things you may not have thought about as we go forward. So what I'm going to do is we'll pop the trunk real quick, talk about some things that are there, and then we'll delve in and talk about some of the other items that I think are important to carry with you if you're going to be driving a classic car. Now, I'll be honest, a lot of the things that driving by that I would carry not only apply to driving a classic car, but apply if you're driving like my wife's 2016 Mustang or my F-150 that's behind me here, or I guess that's actually in front of me. Anyway, there. So let's get in here and we'll talk about this and kind of ignore some of the mess. I know, well, I don't know if y'all can see it on camera. I have the boxes for the seats still in the front of the car because I just got the steel in to make the brackets for the new seats. So hopefully I'll get to that very soon, and then I got a few other things up there. So, but let's come in and we'll pop the trunk real quick and talk a little bit about things that you should probably make sure and check before you start driving. So let's come over here and take a look. Okay, so we got the trunk open here, as you can see, obviously. So some common sense things, of course, make sure you have a decent spare tire. A lot of times this gets forgotten. We spend a lot of money on getting new wheels and tires on the car. We don't think about the spare because, well, they're brand new wheels and tires, but you never know what you're going to run into going down the road. So having a good spare is an important thing. Make sure you check it, make sure it's aired up properly, all of those kind of good things periodically. Don't let it just sit. And of course, with that, I'm not going to take this out, but make sure you have a good jack. I have the original scissor jack that goes with this car. It works perfectly fine. I've greased it, I've maintained it to make sure it works. And of course, with that, I have a lug wrench. Another thing to check, make sure you have a lug wrench, make sure it fits your car. You'd be surprised how many people I've seen stop on the side of the road, have a lug wrench, but it doesn't go to their car. It doesn't fit the lug, so make sure you do that. So again, very important, obviously spare tire, something you think about. A couple other items as far as it goes. Always carry some additional fluids with you, right? Sorry, just want to check, make sure you see this. So things like automatic transmission fluid, if you have an automatic transmission. I have a C4 in here. It had a leak for a while, so I got the, carried a quart, pint or whatever this size is, quart of transmission fluid with me just in case I need it. Again, also make sure you have the right kind. Not all transmission fluids are the same. So this being a Ford uses type F. So I've got that. Having some brake fluid with you, right? So brake fluid is obviously for the brakes, but can be if you have a hydraulic clutch. A lot of times it'll make use of brake fluid for the hydraulic clutch as well. So if either one of those blow out or you have a problem with the brake line, having some extra brake fluid with you is a good thing. Of course, carrying some Antifreeze is good there. Um, Again, if you spring a leak or something, having some extra antifreeze is always a good thing. I always carry some of that. So, other things I usually carry, I don't have it in here right now, but a gas can with me. The gas gauge in here doesn't work. I haven't put the Dakota Digital, there we go, gauges in. So, if I run out of gas, being able to go and get some, have something to put gas in is a good thing. Some people will carry gas with them. I don't like to do that because gas goes bad over time. So if you do carry gas with you, make sure you put some stabilizer in it for the long haul. Okay, so those are the basic fluids I would carry. There's also some spare parts that I would suggest carrying, and this can depend on your car. Hoses are always a good thing to have. Some extra hoses for your radiator, your cooling or your heating system. What am I looking at? The shoot. Anyway, what is that thing called? It's the part of the heating system for the car that's under the dash, and I suddenly can't think of I want to call it the heating coil, but I don't think that's it. Anyway, any of these types of hoses, extra fuel line is a good thing to carry with you as well, and of course extra clamps that would go on those. I have just a few here. Going with that, some other things like an extra thermostat potentially if your thermostat goes bad. A few extra gaskets for things like the thermostat, the carburetor, depending on what you have set up there. Those are always good to have a few extra in there with you. If you don't want to carry gaskets, then having some RTV to make your own gasket on the side of the road is always a good thing to have there. Of course, if you're going to put on gaskets, some sort of gasket sealer is not bad either, although the RTV can be used with that. Right, so having those, or again, I can't tell you, I've had heater or radiator hoses blow out on me and I've had to replace them. I haven't had fuel line blow out on me yet, or brake lines, but it could happen, so carrying a few spares wouldn't hurt. Definitely the radiator's a good way to go. Now, other things like parts that may wear out, so if you're driving a classic car and you've had it for a while or it's been sitting up for a while, so things like fuel pumps in addition to thermostats are always nice to have. In my situation with the Holley EFI system, I'm probably going to get an extra O2 sensor. Those are known to go bad and can cause problems there. So some of those kind of things. Other spare parts to have that are good are bulbs. So whether they're headlights or tail lights, typically I would carry tail lights, marker lights or turn signals, reverse lights, and tag light bulbs there at a minimum. So having some of those, again, great for you never know when you need them. You stick them in the glove box, are pretty handy to have. Fuses, another good thing to have. Bringing extra fuses, keeping 2 or 3 of all the different sizes you might need, a 15, a 30, and so on. Like that's always a good thing to have. I usually carry some of those in the glove box with me. Also with these old cars, having some wire, and I just use this as an example. I don't actually carry this particular one with me, but having some additional wire is always a good thing because you never know when something might lean on the manifold and burn through, or maybe, especially if you've just gotten the car running and driving, maybe there's some old wiring in there that you're not aware of that can short out or whatnot. So having a little bit of wire, plus you can use wire to tie things off if you need to. Another thing, and I don't have it in here, that I recommend is a accelerator return spring. So having that spring that when you push the pedal down returns the pedal back when you're done is good. I've had on this particular car, I can think of at least 3 different times where I've had that accelerator spring either pop loose, which is easy enough to fix, or just completely snap in half or break off. So having an extra spring there has helped me several times on the side of the road. That's the words I'm looking for. Okay, so we've talked about spare parts, we've talked about liquids, big tire things. There's some other obvious items, things like a jumper cable or jump box. So I've got a pair of jumper cables in here. I'm probably going to get some better ones than these. These actually need cleaned up. I just noticed that. These are good to have. Safety equipment like a nice first aid kit to carry with you, just in case something happens to you or somebody else on the side of the road. You can help that. One of the things I've got in here too that I can use are some reflectors, right, that I can put out in case, you know, I'm stuck on the side of the road so people can see me better. So I've got this out there. This, actually, I don't even know where this came from. I've had this for decades. I may have gotten it from my grandfather, to be honest with you. But I can put these out there. They have a stand. Again, just really help, hey, here I am, so people don't run on me on the side of the highway or the interstate. You know, something like road flares, if they still even sell those. I don't know if they sell those or not anymore. Good things to have there. Of course, keeping some sort of flashlight in here that's, you know, keep up and charge is another good thing as well. So these are things you can see that I currently keep in the car right now. I'm going to go and we're going to talk about something else that I don't have in here, but I'm going to prepare, which is a toolkit. What other tools? We mentioned the jack and the lug wrench in there, but what other tools should you carry, right? It's great if you have these spare parts, but if you don't have the tools to install them, what good is it? So let's go, we're going to go up into my back room there. We'll talk about some of the tools that I would recommend putting in a toolkit to keep in your car. So we'll go ahead and do that next. Okay, so as I mentioned, you know, carrying a toolbox with you is an important thing, with a set of commonly used tools that you might really need if you're stuck on the side of the road. So what would that include? Well, a couple of things would be obvious. Some sort of hammer. I know this is a tiny little hammer, but some hammer, possibly even a rubber mallet would be good, but definitely some sort of hammer would be suggested. I would also say, you know, some sort of like utility knife would be a good thing to have. You can use it for cutting wire, for cutting hoses, a lot of valuable uses there. Now, to go with that, some sort of assortment of screwdrivers. Make sure now, make sure they're different sizes. That's where I was going with that. So they can serve double duty, right? One thing I forgot to mention on the spare parts thing, a belt or belts, depending on what your car has, was always a good thing to have multiple, if you have, I learned to speak English, but if you have multiple belts for the power steering and AC and whatnot, you know, carrying extra belts is always a good thing. And the reason I thought about that is, you know, having a long screwdriver that can also serve as a pry bar to help put tension on the alternator or the power steering pump or whatever you need to use to put tension on that belt if you have to replace it is a good thing. So having a screwdriver kind of like this one that would work. I don't know that you need a massive one like this one, but you know, maybe you do. I don't know. But having something, if you don't want to have to carry a pry bar, is there. But having different screwdrivers, both Phillips and flathead, especially on these old cars, is a good thing. If you happen to be, you know, talking about a newer vehicle, having a set of Torx wrenches might also be a good idea. Like this, that's that star pattern head on there would be a bad thing. Now, what you can do to help or not have to carry multiples of these, if I can find which drawer I have it in, is get you, you know, a set. Let's see if this is the one. Yeah, you know, a set like this that has a bunch of different, you know, Phillips head, flathead, Torx, square, you know, something like this might be a good thing to carry. Drill bits, maybe not necessarily for a car, but you never know. So something like that might be useful as opposed to individual screwdrivers, but definitely something worth looking at. So also, what I would suggest is a series, you know, a socket set. Now this is metric, so this doesn't apply to the Mustang, but this was the easy one to get out. So I've got deep and standard size sockets in here. Then your driver, an extension or two is always a good thing. Maybe a universal joint for these just in case, or you can get one of the wrenches that actually has a pivoting head on it. Maybe, but at minimum, just a basic socket set's a good idea. I would suggest using probably 6-point as opposed to 12-point sockets, but that's me. These are 12 points here, but again, having a good socket set that's organized both deep and standard size is a good thing. To go along with that, some good open-end box-end wrenches like this. So I got a nice little set here. It's always good kind of to help back that up when you need it. A nice adjustable wrench too, just for those places where you don't have the right size and you need one. So having a good adjustable wrench can help out. Also, if you're worried about doing lines like brake lines or whatnot on the side, maybe throwing in a line wrench, which is a little bit different than a standard box end, because you got it, it's tight head on it there. So again, not required. Definitely want a set of these box end, open end wrenches, and I would say an adjustable wrench as well. These have saved my keister on the side of the road many times where I've had to replace the battery, right? Take the battery cables off. What else? What did I had to do one time? Oh, I had a shock mount blow out on me. Had to replace that on the side of the road. There on the back end of the car. So again, all of these things have helped me out at some point in time when I was driving this car back in the 80s and 90s. It's a daily driver. I haven't had problems with it yet. So also, to go with that, we talked about wires. So having a set of nips, I don't know what, I think I've always called these nips. I don't know if they're called something else, but you can use these to cut wire, to strip wire. Very versatile. Cut wire. Okay, the battery died on my other camera, so I'm having to use my phone for this part. Okay, whatever. Anyway, I think I was talking about the nips. I'm not sure how much we talked, how much the camera caught. So anyway, again, a great tool, versatile. You can use it to cut wire, cut hoses if you have to, strip wire. Use cut zip ties if you those, which is another good thing to add to your kit. But I just thought of is some zip ties would be another good thing to put in there. So having that, anyway, good set of reliable, sturdy, nips is a good part to your toolkit. Again, very valuable thing to have. Kind of going with that idea of dealing with wiring, since I mentioned having wires, is some way to test your connections on there to see if you've got a blown fuse or if you've got a wire that's broken somewhere or whatnot. Is having something like this just test light, but you ground out this end and you just check it here, and if it lights up, you've got power going to that location, or some sort of multimeter like this one here. Again, having at least something like this is another great thing to help you diagnose problems when you're standing on the side of the road trying to figure out why your car won't crank, or why it's died, or why it won't stay running. Because you can check all kinds of things. Are you getting power to your coil? Are you getting power through to your a relay? Whatever it is, right? So again, very good to have this type of device, or this one here. Something to, again, just check the circuits, right? Make sure power is coming through or not coming through, as the case may be here. These are fairly cheap. This is a little bit more expensive, but again, good something to have. What you're looking for is just to have something, have the tools there, so that hopefully you can get the car or truck or motorcycle or snowmobile. I'm in Georgia, we don't do snowmobiles. Going long enough to get you back to your garage, your house, a parking lot, something other than being stuck on the side of the road. So again, these are all tools that I would suggest you make part of the toolkit that you keep in the trunk or back of your vehicle. Again, these aren't necessarily bad things to have in a modern vehicle as well, but certainly if you're driving a classic, having these will save you a lot. The other thing I would suggest in there is some jack stands. If you can put some jack stands in your trunk, a lot of classic cars, if you don't carry a spare hydraulic jack, if you use a scissor jack like what comes with the Mustang, or maybe you have a bumper jack there, or a bottle jack, a lot of those aren't very stable. So if you're on the side of the road trying to get onto the car to replace a fuel line or a radiator hose, having those jack stands to make the car stable and safer, because nothing's worse than having the car fall on top of you as you're on the side of the road trying to deal with other issues, and now you're stuck, and maybe you don't have your phone, you can't call for help, and yeah, nothing like that's ever happened to me. I'm just getting worst case scenarios in my head for some reason. So with that, let's get ready to close it out. Okay guys, so that's all the stuff I would suggest you keep in the back of your car if you're driving this thing around. Again, some of these are great ideas to have in even a modern car, things like a jumper cable or a jump box, extra fluids, the first aid kit, a flashlight. Of course, I guess you can use your phone for that nowadays, but all good things to have. And the nice thing with some of these jump kits, or jump boxes I should say, is they usually have a USB. So if your car's dead on the side of the road and your phone's almost dead, you can use those to charge your phone so you can call for help, and that kind of thing. So that's another good reason to get a good jump box, as well as the jumper cables there. So I'd be interested to see, what other items would you carry or you suggest? Have you been stuck on the side of the road and go, gosh, if I'd only remembered to put this in my trunk, what would it be? What have you seen? So make sure to leave those ideas, those suggestions down in the comments below. I really hope you've enjoyed the video. If you did, if you learned something you think is going to be beneficial, make sure to give the video a thumbs up. Really helps push traffic to the channel and whatnot. Of course, don't forget about our merch store. I haven't mentioned that in a while. A link for that is down in the description below. So we have t-shirts and coffee mugs and stickers and a bunch of other neat things in there that feature some artwork from another YouTuber, Andrew, over at Grease Rookie Garage, that he did about the car, as well as a couple other things out there that I think you'll like. So with that, guys, I look forward to seeing y'all in the next video.